Hello all, Alex here with the Wisconsin Computer Club. Welcome back to the shop, and today I want to talk a little bit about the Wii U. In 2012, the Wii U was released upon the world as a successor to the original Nintendo Wii, the motion control giant which took over the world, and it was very innovative in what it was trying to do. It tried to kind of continue what the Wii was doing, but add on new things and try new things and experiment with new technology and whatnot, including the kind of cool little Wii U gamepad here, which is a duplication of the screen, but it can also show you different things based on what games you're playing, that kind of thing. It's a touch screen, it's a gamepad, it can do all kinds of fun things there. Kind of expensive as a system, very low power. While Nintendo's first-party games did very well on this system, as third-party games really struggle to run on this thing and all its bespoke hardware and all the ways that it does things. So it's kind of a forgotten system. It didn't sell nearly as well as the Wii, original Wii did. And of course, the Nintendo Switch pretty much righted all the wrongs of this system and came out and still is a juggernaut titan today. So this exists in kind of a strange limbo. Usually between console generations, you have machines that they're not old enough to be retro, they're certainly not old enough to be vintage, and generally speaking, they're not even really thought of or regarded of as something that people are going to be nostalgic for. Like, the Wii U did not sell terribly well. Most of the Nintendo fans of this kind of generation would have had the handhelds, not the actual console. And in that regard, yeah, it makes you wonder, is this something that's worth preserving? And the answer, for me at least, is an absolute yes, especially considering that the Wii U, much like many other products, has an Achilles heel. There is a critical flaw with this system that makes maintaining it and keeping it going well into the future difficult, if not impossible, for some of the systems that are out there. So, traditionally, when you have an old system, they are designed from the manufacturer that it's going to be, you're going to buy it, you're going to use it for, 5 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years even, if you're really a power user. But then you're ultimately going to buy another one from them. They need you to buy another one in order for their business to continue. If they sold you one system and it was good forever, they'd be out of business in no time. So a lot of systems had kind of a planned obsolescence idea about them, in that, well, you're going to use this for a while and then you're going to get rid of it. So there wasn't any thought to preservation or any of that kind of thing. And for some systems, it's fine. The Commodore 64 is rock solid. So even if it's been sitting in a barn or a dumpster or wherever it happens to be, generally speaking, you put power into it, it's going to fire right up, no problem. The Atari 2600, it'll last forever. Other systems, though, you can keep them in an air-conditioned, climate-controlled storage that is, perfect and ideal in terms of moisture and everything, and they'll still stop working. The Amiga range of computers is a real trouble spot to keep those going. Macintosh is notorious for being difficult to maintain just because they have so many capacitors and so many points of failure and so many things that can go wrong on them, that maintaining them is just frustrating, at least for me especially. It's just very frustrating. You can have something that runs one day and may not run at all the next. It's a real challenge that way. But at the same time, there's a value in keeping these things going. There is a value in continuing the work to make sure that they keep running, because at some point down the line, there are going to be less and less and less of them. So as there are less of them, then how do we share these with the people who want to see them, who want to experience them? An example I would think of would be the Amiga 3000. If you want to see an Amiga 3000 in person, maybe Vintage Computer Fest East, maybe. All the batteries blew up on them, and the few that do remain out there are typically in private collections or are wildly expensive on eBay. And it's not the kind of thing that even computer museums generally will have, because it's the Amiga 3000. It's an interstitial machine that was between the 2000, which was widespread, and the 4000, which is the big king of the kings kind of Amiga systems. So it sits in kind of this weird limbo, and these limbo machines are oftentimes forgotten. So, bringing it back around to the Wii U. The Wii U has a similar flaw. It's not in a battery, or it's not capacitors, as far as I know it's not capacitors. Rather, it has a set of memory chips on board which hold all of its BIOS, all of its basic operating instructions. So when you first power it up, it boots into this little computer mode that tells it, hey, I'm a Wii U, I need to play Wii U games, I need to do all this stuff. So these chips were, of course, sourced on the cheap side. What the difference between an expensive memory chip and a cheap memory chip is not that, technically speaking, very little. So of course Nintendo cut a couple corners here and there, and they passed all their tests. They did just fine that way. It wasn't until years later, after these things languished in shoeboxes and under desks and under beds and, in storage and attics and closets and basements, that these things, people would take them out, they'd plug them in, and they wouldn't power on anymore. And that's because these chips will completely discharge, and then once they're completely discharged, they will corrupt the memory, and they will not power on again. It will brick the system. And that's where being kind of this in-between, less popular system really hurts, especially something like the Wii U. If a system has a critical flaw, typically it's up to the vintage community to find ways around it. The Macintosh community is huge, so there's a lot of solutions and fixes for things that have battery issues or capacitor issues, or if it's got bad hard drives, there's hard drive replacements, all that kind of stuff. The Amiga community, equally so. If there's something that's gone wrong in your Amiga, there's definitely a guide out there to help you, there's a product to help you, there's some way to keep your Amiga going no matter what. And for the Wii U, because the community is so much smaller, because the interest range of people is so much smaller, because not as many people are hardcore Wii U enthusiasts, the Wii U is very much in a hard place when it comes to trying to fix a problem, especially a problem like this, which is very technical in nature and very difficult to diagnose, let alone try and repair. And while there have been some progress made on a possible fix using a Raspberry Pi kind of as a bootloader kind of thing, using a side-loading port, it's a real pain in the butt to do, and it's only successful maybe half of the time. So it's quite the arduous kind of thing to do that way. And ultimately, I feel that the best... What are you turning off here? Oh, no, it's just doing the best cure is prevention. And the only known way to keep your Wii U from becoming bricked is to power it on. You got to power it on regularly. Now, that's the only advice I've ever seen is people say, well, boot it up regularly. Whether that means once a year, once a month, once a week, I don't know. For me, I've taken to every 90 days or so, I will power it up, I'll load in one of the games, and I'll just have it sit there on the desk for a minute or two so that it's, this will completely charge, and then it's like, okay, it's powered up enough that it's, I know the chips are still good. And so I'll put that in the log, and then it goes back into storage for a little while, because at this point in time, it's in a weird place as well, in that it's not old enough that we can really take it to a show. I don't think people are, all excited to see a Wii U at the show. A lot of people still have these and are still, they're aware of what it is, and it's, it's still a relatively modern console by all metrics. So for now, it's in kind of this weird limbo, but one day I think it is going to be something people are going to want to see. In the same vein, I think that people want to see things like the Philips CDI or the Mattel Aquarius or some of the other, the Atari Jaguar, those kind of consoles that, consoles and computers that didn't do terribly well when they were new, but they have enough of a reputation, this kind of, mystery about them, that people want to experience for themselves, see it and experience it as it is. And I think that that's an important thing, that this needs to be preserved for its time to shine. I think someday in the future, this is going to be something people are going to want to see. They're going to want to experience this again. And if all the Wii U's between now and then get bricked, it's really going to come down to the ones that were maintained, that were, given the opportunity to survive. So that's why every 90 days or so, I am powering this thing up and doing my darndest to keep it running and alive. Not necessarily because I even like it that much. I mean, I'm not saying like the Mario games or anything are bad on this thing, but it's not the games are built on this thing generally are not my cup of tea. So it's not even like I'm really even doing a whole lot with it that way, but it's not. A lot of this kind of retro restoration and maintenance kind of stuff, it's not necessarily even just for me, but it's for the retro community as a whole, and what the club is trying to accomplish, and what I feel the community at large is trying to accomplish. So anyway, I've once again made it sound like we're doing something way bigger and more impressive and righteous, I guess, than what it probably is. It's just probably my madness here that keeps us all going. But at the same time, we are keeping retro tech on the road, and someday it will be dead, and this thing maybe will not be, and it'll be because I did something now that made it work that long. Wow, that is a gloomy note to end on. Why did I write that on there? Okay, well, thank you all so very much for watching this this kind of all over the place ramble of mine. I don't know why they keep asking me to do these. Have a great stream, I guess. Yeah, wow.